Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Have you ever watched someone you care about completely sabotage a perfectly good thing just because they were too scared of losing it? It is one of the most frustrating things in the world to witness, and that is exactly what we are seeing right now with Rick Lansing. It just breaks my heart to see a grown man acting this way. I have to tell you, he has this beautiful, caring woman in Elizabeth, and instead of just thanking his lucky stars and enjoying the blessing he has been given, he is letting his own insecurities run completely wild. It is like he is determined to ruin his own happiness before anyone else can do it for him. When Rick walked into that room and saw Liz checking on Dante's leg wound, my jaw just dropped at his reaction. Any reasonable person would look at that situation and see exactly what it was. A kind-hearted nurse and a good friend making sure a guest in her home was healing up properly. It was completely innocent. But not Rick. Oh no, he took one look at them and instantly jumped to the absolute worst conclusion possible. He did not ask questions. He did not try to understand. He just let his green-eyed monster take the wheel and drive him straight into a panic. And can we talk about the flowers for a moment? Rick had brought her flowers, clearly intending to be sweet and romantic. But the moment he felt threatened, he turned right around and stormed out in a huff, taking those beautiful flowers right along with him. I had to shake my head at that. It was such a childish thing to do. Instead of acting like a mature man who trusts his partner, he threw a silent temper tantrum and marched out the door. It really shows you just how deep his insecurities run and how quickly he is willing to throw up walls the second he feels even a tiny bit vulnerable. Let us talk about sweet Elizabeth for a minute, because my heart truly goes out to her in all of this. That poor woman has been through the ringer over the years, and all she really wants at this stage in her life is a steady, trusting, and peaceful relationship. When she was talking to Dante after Rick stormed out, she admitted that Rick's lack of confidence has always been a dark cloud hanging over them. She even made a little joke about how Rick gets jealous over the pizza delivery boy. We can all chuckle at that, but as women who have lived a little, we know the deep exhaustion that hides behind a joke like that. It takes a monumental amount of emotional energy to constantly reassure a man who absolutely refuses to feel secure. Liz is tired. You can just see it in her eyes and hear it in her voice. She is reaching that breaking point where a woman simply stops trying to prove her innocence because she finally realizes that the problem has nothing to do with her actions. The problem is entirely inside his own head. You cannot fix a man's lack of trust by simply being good. He has to want to heal that part of himself, and Rick is just not doing the work. Now, we have to look at the absolute tragic irony of Dante's role in this whole messy situation. In Rick's paranoid mind, Dante is this smooth-talking threat, a homewrecker who is just waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and steal his lady away. Rick has built Dante up into this massive rival, but what is Dante actually doing in reality? He is sitting there, letting his leg be tended to, and acting as the biggest cheerleader for Rick and Liz's relationship. Dante is not trying to steal anyone, he is actively trying to keep them together. It is almost comical if it were not so sad. While Rick is out in the streets fuming and plotting, Dante is sitting quietly with Liz, listening to her pour her heart out and gently encouraging her to give Rick another chance. Dante is telling her to be patient, to give Rick some time to cool off and think things through. He is reminding her that Rick would never want to throw away something as good as what they have. Dante is literally doing all the heavy lifting to save Rick's relationship while Rick is doing everything in his power to tear it apart. This is the very definition of making a mountain out of a molehill, but Rick is taking it even further. He is borrowing trouble from a future that does not even exist. He is so terrified that Elizabeth will eventually want someone else that he is actively paving the road for her to walk right out the door. It is a classic self-fulfilling prophecy. You hold on to the bird so tightly out of fear it will fly away that you end up crushing it in your own hands. Rick is suffocating the love right out of this relationship with his endless suspicion, and then bless his heart, Rick decides the best course of action is to go track down Lulu. He actually tries to get Lulu to step in and put a stop to this completely imaginary romance between Dante and Liz. I could not believe my ears when I saw that unfold. It is just so desperate and misguided. He is running around town, ringing the alarm bells, and trying to recruit people to fight a fire that he started entirely in his own imagination. He is trying to control the situation from the outside because he has absolutely no control over his own emotions on the inside. I have to give Lulu all the credit in the world for how she handled him. She did not coddle him or play into his delusions. She looked him straight in the eye and gave him the hard, honest truth that only a true friend can deliver. She told him flat out that his paranoia is the exact thing that is going to push Liz away. Lulu saw right through his nonsense and called a spade a spade. Sometimes we all need someone to give us a good shake and tell us we are being foolish. And Lulu did exactly that. Whether Rick is actually capable of hearing her, well, that is another story entirely. It really makes you wonder what goes on deep down in Rick's soul. Why does he always feel like he has to compete for love? He has always carried this heavy chip on his shoulder, always feeling like he is second best, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But when you finally get a good woman like Elizabeth, you have to learn how to rest in that love. You cannot keep fighting a war that is already over. You have to lay down your weapons and trust that you are worthy of being loved, just as you are. You know, sitting here thinking about it, it reminds me of so many couples I have seen over the decades. When you are young, sometimes you mistake jealousy for passion. You think that if a man is acting possessive, it must mean he loves you deeply. But as we grow older and wiser, we learn that true love is not about possession at all. It is about freedom and trust. True love is looking at your partner, knowing they have the choice to be with anyone in the world, and feeling secure that they choose you every single day. Rick is stuck in that immature mindset where he thinks he has to guard Liz like a prize rather than trusting her as a partner. It is a lonely way to live, always waiting for a betrayal that simply is not coming. And think about poor Dante in all this. The man is just trying to heal his leg and enjoy a little quiet company. He has his own life, his own worries, and the last thing he needs is to be dragged into the middle of a romantic tug-of-war that he did not even sign up for. But because Dante is a gentleman, because he was raised right, he does not use the situation to his advantage. A lesser man might have seen Rick's foolishness as an opportunity to move in, but Dante does the honorable thing. He speaks well of Rick. He tries to mend the bridge that Rick is so desperately trying to burn. That just highlights the stark contrast between the two men right now. One is acting out of fear and anger, while the other is acting out of grace and maturity. Elizabeth is finally starting to draw a firm line in the sand, and honestly, I am so proud of her for it. She told Dante that she hopes this whole situation will just blow over, but she also made it crystal clear that if it does not, then maybe she and Rick are just not meant to be together. That is the sound of a woman who knows her own worth. When we get to a certain age, we realize that peace in our home and in our hearts is far more important than holding on to a relationship that constantly drains us. Liz wants a partner, not a project. She wants someone who brings her comfort, not someone who brings unnecessary drama to her doorstep every time he misinterprets a perfectly innocent moment. If Rick cannot get a grip on his own jealousy, she is fully prepared to walk away, and she would be entirely justified in doing so. The most tragic part of this entire ordeal is that if Rick does end up losing Elizabeth, he will almost certainly blame Dante. He will twist the story in his head to make himself the victim. He will tell himself that he was right all along, that Dante was a snake in the grass who stole his woman. But we will all know the real truth. We will know that Liz did not leave because she suddenly fell head over heels for Dante. She will have left because Rick made staying far too painful and exhausting. I truly hope that Rick can find a quiet moment to sit down, look in the mirror, and have a very honest conversation with himself. He needs to ask himself what he really wants. Does he want to be right in his paranoia, or does he want to be happy with Elizabeth? Because he simply cannot have both. He has to let go of this deep-seated fear that he isn't enough. Until he realizes his own value, he will never believe that someone like Liz could just love him for who he is. It is a hard lesson to learn, and sometimes it takes a painful loss to finally open our eyes. Rick is shooting himself in the foot, plain and simple. It is a cautionary tale for all of us about the destructive power of unchecked insecurity. Trust is the absolute foundation of any strong house, and right now, Rick is taking a sledgehammer to his own foundation. I just pray that he wakes up and smells the coffee before it is entirely too late. Elizabeth is a wonderful catch, a true gem of a woman, and once she finally decides she has had enough, she might just be gone for good. Let us hope he finds the wisdom to change his ways before he loses the best thing that ever happened to him.